Girls' sports are growing today faster than ever. Every year, 35 million kids ages 5 to 18 sign up for organized sports. Sports can help girls physically, psychologically, and socially in all aspects of their lives. Sports have many benefits for girls. It is an easy and fun way to stay in shape, learn teamwork, and get several life lessons and skills.
I think youth sports is by far the most powerful vehicle, female and male to be fair, athletes or people in general have to being extremely successful as adults. And the reason why, and this is why I think every child should experience athletics at some point in their life, whether it be when they're 4 or 14 or 40. Someone should have athletics in their life, but especially at the youngest ages, because every powerful leader that you think of in the world, whether it be presidents, whether it be leaders of foreign countries, whether it be CEOs of Fortune 500 companies, almost every single one of them has athletics somewhere in their life, because it allows them not only to build teamwork, it allows them to build character in a person.
Sports have proven to help self-confidence, discipline, focus, ability to adapt to conditions, communication, and goal setting.
It's given me an opportunity to learn and grow both athletically and also as a person. I think there's a lot of life lessons that you learn through playing sports, teamwork, anything that you would need in the business world, competition, how to be competitive, how to accept that somebody's better than you and be happy for them, and at the same time still push yourself to reach your goals and to make yourself better. So it's always been a huge part of my life.
Sports affected my life because it taught me a bunch of life lessons that I think you need, with team camaraderie as well as being driven, because I think those are two great things that you need in the real world.
Softball definitely has brought a lot of life skills in, to learn how to work as a team, to be leaders, to face adversity because you can't always win. And softball and baseball are definitely a sports that basically they're sports where you're going to fail a lot of the time, because if you're successful 3 out of 10 times at bat, then you are a great hitter. No other sport can you only be successful 3 out of 10 times. So you learn how to take goals and improve yourself, but also face the reality that you're not going to be perfect. And so I think that flows into life and how you can handle things and what comes your way.
Sports has affected me in a way that I probably wouldn't have realized as a child, but looking back again, like I said, hindsight, sports probably benefited and probably held my families together in more ways than one.
It was very positive. It kept me very busy, kept me very fit, kept me too tired to ever get in any trouble, and I made great friends. Another thing that was unique to me is that I moved with my family a lot, about every 2 years growing up, and everywhere we went, I was able to quickly kind of plug into a swim team and make friends very fast.
I think softball is a positive. I really think, a lot of times I talk to a lot of parents and they say that, my daughter was never this social. My daughter never really talked to many people, and sports gave them that outlet. It gave them that confidence.
Girls today have so many more opportunities than they did in the past.
My high school coach at that point in time, he was a ex-NBA basketball player, and he took on the job my sophomore year just to go ahead and get back into coaching. He had stepped out for a while. Well, needless to say, our team was very good, and our team was filled with sophomores. At that time, I was a sophomore, and we were going to the district playoffs and the state championships, and we didn't have uniforms that were correct. The numbers on the front and the back weren't the legal size that they should have been. And our high school refused to buy us uniforms so that we could participate in the districts and then proceed to the states. So what our high school coach did was he borrowed the boys' uniforms. And there was a huge article on why are we wearing male uniforms. So we all got different numbers. We were wearing the tank tops. Granted, we had t-shirts underneath. but it became a big hoopla in the local media of us wearing boys' uniforms. The following year, the school that I went to, which was a public high school, was so embarrassed that they went and they bought brand new uniforms for the 6 public high schools in that city for the women's sports programs. So not only did Title IX, not only was I a Title IX baby, but it really jump-started a lot of the things in the community that I grew up in, because they were really uninformed and uneducated about what Title IX is supposed to do, and it took the embarrassment factor for them to be able to get to that level of understanding.
Started in 1972, Title IX stated that girls and boys should have equal opportunities and there should be no sex discrimination in education or sports.
Title IX basically it means that whatever you do for the men at an institution, for a school that is federally funded, whether it's elementary school, middle school, high school, or college, whatever is happening for the young men there, it needs to be of equal proportion to the women. So that means if men are getting X amount of scholarships based on whatever that's based on, whether it's grades, test scores, women are supposed to receive the same thing. If there's so many men being accepted into law school, then it has to be the same amount of women accepted based upon the overall enrollment of the institution. So how that affects athletics is Title IX basically says if the men's sports are receiving something, then the women's sports need to receive that. Now that's at the collegiate level. At the high school and the grammar school level, it's sport by sport and funding and experience. So you need sports. So if you have 30 men playing, you need 30 women playing. Experience. If the experience says that the men are traveling X amount of places, the women need to be traveling. If they're traveling luxury buses, the women need to have that same experience. And as far as money goes, it's based on, the money doesn't have to be proportionate unless if there's scholarships involved. So once scholarships are involved, the money has to be proportionate. But again, experience overtakes the scholarship aspect, the monetary aspect of it.
Title IX to me is an opportunity for equality between men and women's athletics. Originally started off as something for education. The universities were not equal as far as letting females into programs or even into school, much less the other benefits that they were receiving. And so Title IX was started in 1972 to equalize that, and basically overnight the academic side was even, but it's taken a long time. We just celebrated our 40th anniversary and it's still not quite equal, so it's just a push for equality amongst men and women's sports.
The growth of women's sports based on Title IX has been exponential, in that when I started coaching youth soccer, there were a little over 50 college programs in the country that offered women's soccer. Where currently, if you add all the Division 3, 2, 1, NAIA, and junior college, there's over 500 programs now. So the growth has exploded, and to be fair, it really in women's soccer took off in 1999 after the World Cup. So, the growth is exceptionally large.
In 1972, there were only 3% of high school girls participating in sports. In 2012, that number has jumped 40%. Due to growing opportunities for girls in sports, this percentage growth shows how Title IX has influenced girls' participation in sports.
It's just not as big as it could be, and a lot of that has to do with the females' competition versus men's sports. The promotion that some big money markets are willing to put into female sports. Look at the WNBA, the Women's Professional Soccer League. They went through the WSA, that faltered a little bit, went in dormancy, came back. It's now the WPSL, I believe, the Women's Professional Soccer League, and it's still, they only went to 7 markets or 8 markets, where originally they had 15 or 16 teams or whatever it was back then. The bottom line is that it's tougher to build a market for female athletes than it is for male athletes.
Title IX originally wasn't something that was going to be just affect women's athletics. Title IX was affecting education, it was affecting scholarships, it was affecting every possible thing that you think that women could do at an institution that was federally funded. So therefore, you know, you would get more doctors, more lawyers, more CEOs and executives. So things that you hear, like the glass ceiling saying women could only go so high in corporations. Title IX was really starting to break those barriers. But Title IX became an easy pulpit for athletics. They realized women playing sports, it developed a different type of woman. Women who play sports are more confident. They're more secure. They're more agile. They're more likely to go ahead and run companies and change things. And those were the perks of Title IX.
Physical differences in male and female athletes do exist. It has been proven that girls have more activity on the left side of the brain. This is the language and logic side of the brain. Boys have more activity on the right side of the brain, being more spatial and able to analyze surroundings.
As far as male to female, I think males have a huge expectation to just be the best and be successful and go pro and everything like that. With female sports, there aren't really a lot of opportunities for professional sports. You have the women's WNBA for basketball, and you have professional volleyball leagues overseas, but it's really not anything compared to what we know as professional sport.
I feel like we battle a lot of things as a female, as female versus male. We battle a lot of different obstacles. You know, don't get me wrong, everybody loves to see the male sport. You know, an example I always give is basketball. You know, you see the guys, they slam and they do all this fancy stuff, and the girls, they like lay it up, you know, things like that. I think the expectation though is just, it's always going higher. They're always bringing up something. You know, we're always trying to make it better, you know, for ourselves. We're always trying to be competitive, be in entertainment, you know, stuff like that. So expectations have I think risen honestly in the last 5 years significantly. Compared to when I used to watch, you know, sports and when females started.
Female athletes are very analytical. They think their way through the game, where boys are very instinctual and very, they just grow up differently from playing catch with their brothers at 4, where, you know, girls a lot of times in a lot of environments don't do that. So girls really pay attention to their coaches. They really try to listen to what their coach has to say. They really try to think their way through the game and what the coach wants out of them. Where boys, you just throw a ball on the field and they just go flying around. They don't listen to you at all.
Whether I'm coaching boys or girls, I train them the same. I have the same expectations. Where I think it splits and becomes a little different is how you deal with them on the mental side of things. Girls, female athletes want to process things a little differently than the males. You know, the male athlete just a lot of times are not as much analytical. They just want to get after it. Whereas the females, you know, athletes, they want to think about, they want to process it. They want to have an idea of what they're doing and the purpose and things of that nature. So on that end, probably physically, obviously, you know, there's a difference between the boys and the girls, men and women. But at the end of the day, my philosophy has always been, personally, you train them the same way, challenge them the same way. As you find differences as they get older with their bodies, the whole 9 yards, boys and girls, you change your training based off of what you see.
I don't differentiate between female athletes and male athletes. I understand there's distinct differences in emotional level, in intelligence, and maturity level, but for me, one of the first questions I always ask a team, do you want me to treat you like a female athlete, or do you want me to treat you like an athlete? And 99% of the time they all say athletes. Well, that means the expectations are the same. The way I structure my training might be different, but the expectation level and what I expect out of them as far as, you know, putting a bar I expect them to reach the same bar as I would any other athlete. So for me, it really doesn't matter if it's boy, girl, if it's soccer, if it's volleyball, if it's football. You set the expectation of what are your goals? Okay, this is where you want to be. This is what it's going to take to get there. And whether it's male, female, whatever, it doesn't really matter. Expectation is going to be the same.
I didn't even want to really coach girls. I was a guy runner. I knew everything about guy cross country and track. And one of the jobs, of course, when you go to small schools, you coach both guys and girls for track and cross country. So I didn't really have much knowledge about, girl athletics at all, besides the girls I knew when I went to Texas Tech. And so it was a different experience. And over the years, I've taught and I've picked up different things, and just got different athletes, and it's evolved to the point where I like coaching girls more than I like coaching guys. I really do. I think they give back a whole lot more, that they soak in a whole lot more, and they kind of understand the whole thing of what athletics means in your life.
I think that people push boys harder, and I think that the competitive thing is pushed harder with boys for whatever reason. It's probably psychological. It's probably, and I think it's changing a little bit. And I think, the girls coming up through do get more competitive and understand that it's okay to be competitive. I think that's the biggest message that we need to send to the girls, and I'm not sure it always comes across. It's okay to be competitive. It's okay to want to win. It's not okay to be a poor sport. You have to be okay with losing, and you have to understand that you don't win all the time, but it's okay to like to win.
Being competitive isn't just about being physically ready to play a game. You have to be mentally ready as well.
I would definitely say psychologically has got to be one of the harder parts of the game, because you can have two athletes on the same level physically, but whoever has a mental advantage is gonna win.
It's great to win. It feels so good when your team's working hard and you're winning and you're all putting your best effort in. But when you lose, it's a learning experience, but it's not fun to lose. Nobody likes to lose, but you learn from it.
Every game's hard, and you always have to be on your best game. Like if you have an off game, you let your team down, and then you can end up even losing, and it's like there's so much pressure to just always be like your top game.
Pressures are you want to play your best in every game, and you always don't want to let your team down or your coach down, and you want to try to score and play your position to the best of your ability, and take the coach's criticism into your playing and to improve every game.
Softball is a really big mental sport, because if you think that you're going to strike out, then you most likely will, because you kind of have to have confidence when you go up to the plate, but if you don't have any, you're not going to do your best.
It gives them a lot of confidence. I find when freshmen come in, even the better athletes, they're just not confident in their abilities. And I find, that's one of my biggest things as a coach. I find, first thing, I always try to give them confidence in what they're doing. And I do that, I meet with them once a week. And the first thing I go over, I always ask them, okay, write 3 things down that you're grateful for, right? And when they do that, it gets in a positive mindset. And then after that, we can talk about the workouts, talk about their goals or whatnot. But I find I think that's what, more than anything else, that's what the women in the program draw off that. I think they feel good about themselves. They feel good about being a part of a group. They feel good about winning, and I think it helps them in other parts of their life too. So I think as a coach, it's my biggest job to help them get confidence in themselves and what they're doing.
Self-esteem is a little bit of an issue for a lot of girls, and I see their participation in sports, and specifically volleyball, because that's what I see, change quite a bit. I've seen girls with no self-esteem whatsoever really change and develop just in one season, and have confidence in her athleticism and her skill in being able to talk to an adult. We have certain rules with our club where if you're talking about playing time, the athlete has to go talk to their coach specifically, and it's encouraged for them to ask their coach one-on-one, what do I need to do to get more playing time? What do I need to work on the most? Whereas, we're developing that life skill of being able to approach authority and talk to them, and it's not scary. It's something you should be doing, and so I've seen young girls start off that wouldn't even say hi to somebody, who are now, hi, how are you? Welcome to TCA. They're welcoming the new players into the club they're talking to the adults of other players, and even, you know, officiating and stuff like that, you have to be confident with what you're doing. And so, you know, I've seen girls that were quiet and mousy at the beginning of the season. At the end of the season, they're calling an out of rotation on a team, and the head coach of another team's like, they weren't out of rotation. Yes, they were. She needs to be here. She needs to be there. And just to have that confidence to be able to stand behind what you say and what you do, and it's huge, and the benefits are amazing.
The discipline you develop growing up in sports, and we'll say we're using soccer as a topic, transitions into everything you do in life. Everything. They say, you know, sport is life. A lot of shirts say soccer is life, things like that. What that means is it doesn't take over your life. It means it impacts your life. As you get older, a lot of the discipline, a lot of the hardships, a lot of the adversity, a lot of things you had to do thinking on your feet while playing, while training, all that stuff transcends right into you as an athlete, into school, into you as a young lady, into challenges you face in life. You can bring everything in sports into some aspect of your life. If I met this challenge physically and mentally on the pitch, I can do anything.
I've learned in softball, if you strike out, you can't let it affect you, how you play the rest of the game. And I take that to school. If I mess up on a test or I get a bad grade, I can't let it affect how I do in the rest of my classes. I just have to keep practicing and getting better.
Group sports is really, you know, adversity, staying calm, learning to win and lose, you know, dealing with different situations, leadership. You know, I think that's all kind of connected.
The leadership ability that kids get and the character building things that kids get out of youth sports is immeasurable. And as a coach, you know, your greatest accomplishment is when somebody comes back to you, whether it be a year or 10 years, and say, what you did for me has helped me drastically in my life.
Youth sports can help you become a well-rounded person, and there is a connection between the mind and body.
That's a huge part of sports, is how you recover from your injuries. So I tend to tell athletes, during this time, this is not your time to worry about your physical, because you can't be on the field, so you're just going to tear yourself down. You need to worry about your mental, your psychological aspect. Set goals for your mental development. How can I become better at, you know, for instance for softball, how can I become better at watching the pitcher and seeing where she steps and how she releases the ball, and or if they're a catcher, how did the batter set up? What would I throw this batter next? And really mental imagery and focusing on things like that can be carried over throughout all of their softball and all of their competition, regardless of sports. It's just mental imagery and mental toughness. But yet it's very important that they have something positive to focus on and positive goals whenever they're injured.
Sports can be physically demanding. It is important to know your limits and be able to take care of yourself.
Physically, wear and tear on the body, if you're talking about the technical side of things, as they mature, their body's maturing, you look more wear and tear on the hips, the knees, things that area, because their structure and their body types develop differently than the boys. So with that, they always have to be cognizant of what you do, training them as they get older. What type of preventative exercises are you giving them, or how's your warm-ups?
Females aged 10 to 19 years old sustain sports and recreation-related traumatic brain injuries most often while playing soccer, basketball, or while bicycling.
Concussions are a different story. Obviously, they've done a lot of research, especially recently, regarding concussions in female athletes. And it primarily goes down to neck and muscle, upper trapezoid and upper shoulder structure for females, in that men's their lats and their traps and their necks are usually stronger and more developed, so they're able to withstand a little more of a pressure of a 15-pound ball hitting them in the head consistently, where a lot of females don't develop that as they get older because they're a little thinner and their necks are a little longer, and those are a little harder to develop. So female athletes nowadays are experiencing a massive growth in concussions. And the good part about that is it's being noticed by the scientific community, and there's a lot of things in place to make sure that we're protecting the female athletes against that. But it is definitely a concern.
I see a lot more ACLs with girls just because of the way that their hips are, their biomechanics are. A lot of times with their development, they'll be weaker through their hips and their knees. And with cutting sports and starting and stopping sports, they're more prone to have weakness to the lower body than it seems that boys are, because their genetic makeup and the way that their skeletal muscles and bones, the way they develop, just they're less prone to that. So with girls, we do tend to see more of we call it girly knee syndrome, and have more of the knee issues and whatnot, just because of the way that the women's pelvis arranged, and how as they develop, start to see a change in their hormones, which changes other aspects of the body, like the ligaments and laxity and certain things within them. So it's very interesting, having gone through PT, to kind of correlate some of the past injuries I've had and I've seen people have with just the basics of the female body.
Your body's changed from a body shape point of view, so the balance, coordination, all the things are the same until you're about 14. Then it really has a direct impact on how you develop from that point forward. Women experience injuries that men really won't ever experience to a larger degree. You might see 1 or 2 out of 10 boys tear an ACL throughout their soccer career. Well, you might see 5 to 7 females. So when you hit 14, it drastically changes physically, but until then it really is the same. So going back to what I said earlier, the expectation level is really the same, but obviously as a coach you have to understand those different aspects of it, and you have to change the way that you train girls when they get to a certain age. You have to change the expectations from a physical point of view, and you have to understand that there's going to be drastic differences in men and women as they grow older.
The hardest part of playing soccer for me is probably I got hurt a lot this year, so I had to try to get back to where I was before.
A lot of my friends would tear their ACLs, meniscus. One girl broke 3 ribs and got a concussion from the game. I mean, it's a really physical sport, and so you have to be careful. Like, you always have to stretch and ice, and you always have to go in and get therapy, and that type of thing is a time commitment, and it also has to be a routine. It can't just be a choice. You have to, otherwise so you can't get injured again. With swimming, a lot of athletes have problems in shoulders, and they get really, really tight shoulders, and they can get shoulder problems with surgery, and it's different from then when my parents were growing up, because they never really had that. But now that it is so competitive these days, you have to be careful, and you have to be aware of your body and how far you can take it.
It'd be good to get them just a consult, or get them into some type of younger youth training. It doesn't have to be extreme, but just so that they can focus on a single leg squat, or squatting properly and jumping and landing properly, so that when they're playing these sports where they are doing landing or having to squat or having to cut laterally, that it doesn't make them prone to injury.
Girls should do preventative training to avoid common injuries like ankle and knee sprains and strains. All sports can be hard on the body.
Volleyball is one of the few sports that works pretty much every muscle in your body, because you're running, you're jumping, you're diving, you're doing a bunch of different skills, and so it's great physically for staying in shape, or even losing weight, or just being very physical.
In track and cross country, a lot of the girls they come in. Some of the girls I have to do it because they want to get in shape, right? They want to stay in shape, right? And that's fine. I understand that component also. I think as a part is physically, I think girls have an image they're always trying to look up to for whatever reason. They want to be skinnier, want to be stronger, they want to be faster or whatnot, and that's more on the girl side than on the guy side. So I understand that, and what I do, I try to give them advice on all levels, advice on nutrition, on how to eat, what to eat. A lot of the females I have don't eat enough. They really don't, and I have to sit down. I make them log what to eat for the whole week, and I see, and it always comes to the conclusion they're not eating as many times as they should, and they're not eating the right stuff. The vegetables and the fruits and whatnot. And my advice is always to them: you got to eat 5 meals a day. Breakfast, small meal, so on and so on. And at first they kind of fight it, because they're like, "Oh, coach, I'm not gonna get in shape, and I'm gonna lose it." But then after they do it for a couple of weeks, they find out they feel better, and it doesn't affect their running, it enhances their running.
I go to the gym almost like every day and make sure I'm fit and staying in shape, and it's like very physically exhausting.
I think soccer affects female athletes to the point where it's a continuous, ongoing level of desire to stay in shape. The longevity of trying to stay competitive helps in so many different aspects. I think the competitive nature, the health, the maintaining of your health is two of the biggest components that I think is absolutely important for a female athlete, because to be competitive in your job and your academic life and your sporting life and your family life is absolutely important, and it's absolutely imperative that they understand and embrace that. And I think from the health perspective, they learn to be able to maintain a high level of health throughout their lives, not just when they're competing, but also as adults.
I've learned that the physical aspects, you have to practice a lot, because there's so much to get down in softball to be good, that when it comes to game time, if you haven't practiced enough, it's going to be really hard to do your best.
It used to be, well, you could point out which were the stronger players and which weren't, and now there's just a bunch of strong players. You know, there's just a bunch of girls that just want to play the game and enjoy the sport.
Bonding is important, and friendship is one of the main reasons girls play sports.
As a group, especially in cross country, as a group, if you bond together and you get that confidence of being a part of that group, great things happen. And especially on that girls' side, I find if I can get them early on that first week, have team bonding activities, and that helps a whole lot towards the end of the season when people start getting tired, people start getting, you know, it wears on you. I find if you get that bond early on, it helps a lot. And so I promote that a lot in my program here for sure.
Socially, I definitely would say I have friends of a lifetime because of softball. You make tons of connections that even from my softball career, I'm still, as a physical therapist, able to connect back with those coaches and with those athletes and say, you know, if you have an issue, come see me. And so it really helps socially with networking, helps you get out and meet people. The girls that are shyer, it helps them kind of form a bond and not feel as shy. So they learn how to communicate with other teams when they're playing, you know, they learn how to kind of get outside of their bubbles. I think definitely socially, softball was a major part of how I socially developed. To be able to just talk in front of people, in front of your teammates, you know, lead, talk to coaches, and definitely through college it allowed a lot of leadership opportunities through the NCAA to be on committees for student athletes.
I've learned that the social aspects, you spend a lot of time with your team, almost more time with your team than your actual friends from school, but it's kind of fun because you get to know girls that you don't necessarily go to school with, and they're kind of a different group.
Socially, what I like about soccer is the whole team aspect. I mean, you're always with this team and your team's like family.
I like it socially because my friends are really supportive and they're all really good, and it's fun to try to like keep up with each other and try to just be the best we can.
All my friends are soccer players. Like, you like become really close with your team and you do everything with them, and the more you come together with your team, like the better you play. So like if you get in a fight with one of your team, you have to like make it up and stuff. And they also understand what you're going through, because other people at school that like don't play sports, you know, they don't understand like how hard you have to work and where you have to get, and so they just motivate you to do better.
In group situations where you have to get along with people, it's very important that you understand how to read people and how to get along with people, and you learn that in team sport.
It does create a lot of friends, and like I said, soccer is great because it's a big team sport and you're like a family. You spend so much time with them and you fight like sisters, but at the end of the day, like, you're best friends.
I like doing sports because I get to be around people who enjoy the same passion as me. Like my softball friends, we all go to different schools. Some go to Dripping Springs, some go to Cedar Park, but we all love softball, so it's fun to get together and be able to do that.
I like soccer because you get to hang out with your friends. It's really fun, it's competitive, and it keeps you busy.
I love just the thrill of doing soccer. When you score, your team just surrounds you and you have such a good feeling inside. And I love running around and just being able to play with all my friends.
I like soccer because it's very competitive and it's a team sport, and you can't do well unless everyone in your team is putting their best effort in and trying their hardest, because if there's a couple players that just aren't doing it, you're not gonna play well and you're not gonna win. So I mean, everyone has to do what they can.
I like that. It's just, you get to go out there and you get to play hard and just be you and play for yourself, and like winning of course is like awesome, but it just gets my mind off of other things.
While some girls find their passion for a sport early, others sometimes have to make a choice which sport that they will pursue.
I quit swimming to do soccer because I felt like I had more to build on in soccer. With swimming, I'm pretty good at both sports, but swimming, I just felt like I was getting kind of behind on because I had to commit to soccer to be playing Division I. So I just got kind of behind, and I just thought I'd enjoy soccer more, and doing two sports along with school sports was really hard for me. I was really busy, kind of stressed, you know, and I just decided that I think I would enjoy playing soccer more, committing myself to soccer, working hard at it. And I mean, I knew I was gonna have to face like losing some of my friends in swimming. I have great friends from swimming, and I knew I'd have to face losing them, but I figured I could build a stronger bond with my soccer friends and just work hard at it.
I would say if you quit something, quit not to run away from it, but to go towards something else.
If I were to talk to a girl that was quitting softball, if they're enjoying softball, then there's no point in staying with it. Really, the only reason that you would play is if you're having fun. It's not a life commitment, it's just a game. So if you don't like it, then there's no point in staying with it.
If it's not fun anymore, it's not worth it. It's not worth the time and energy.
As girls get older, they become more social. There's more things they do at school. There's more, crowds they hang around with, things like that. So sometimes that takes them away from sports, takes them away from soccer, because they have other directions. I'd rather go to the prom. I'd rather go here. If there's a choice between these two things and there is no way to work around it, they're going to sometimes pick the social items. Sometimes it's the real dedicated athletes that will say, well, if that works into my schedule, I'll do it. But for the most part, I want to do the sports. So that's the challenges is when they get older. And then the older you get also, the more outside influences you have.
I like to find out what their motivation is and why they're doing it, and then try to explain to them, at least if I don't agree with what their motivation is, all the opportunities that they're going to forgo by doing that. And I'll give you an example. If there's a girl, say, that wants to play Division I college soccer, and at 15 years old she decides, I don't want to play select soccer anymore, I just want to play high school, but I still have a desire to play Division I college, then it's up to me as the coach to explain to her developmentally what she's going to miss from 15 to 18 that other players are going to get that are continuing playing to accomplish that goal. So to make a long story short, I like to find out the motivation and why they're doing it, how that molds in and meshes in with their goals, and then whether I agree or disagree, give them information to try to help them make a better decision rather than just emotional decision.
Well, first I'd like to know why. If it's because of a coach, one of my things is never let anybody steal your joy. So you may have a good coach here, you may have a bad coach here, but it's still going to benefit you across your life, because you have to deal with people like that sometimes, and you have to be able to overcome it. So, if she just doesn't like the sport, then, I can respect that. Maybe get her into a different sport that she would like better, or a different activity, period. Maybe it's music, maybe it's art, maybe it's something, history or something like that. But some kind of activity, and that she can find that's interesting, that's a hobby for her, that she can, release her own personality. But if it's because of something other than not liking the sport, then definitely want to encourage her to stick with it and try a different position or a different coach or a different something, because I don't think anybody should quit just because of one person.
I think the player should sit down on her own or his own and analyze the process. Sit down pros, cons of quitting. What am I going to miss by quitting? What am I going to gain by quitting? On their own. No influence from parents, coaches, nobody. On their own. Second part, take 2-3 days and really just sit on it. Sit on those things you just sat down and wrote out. You know, take the time. And lastly, which is the part that, you know, now you bring in the parents. Now you have your list, you sat for it for 3 days, you meet with your parents, and then you ask them, this is what I wrote down, this is why I'm thinking of quitting, what do you guys think? And hopefully they give you the objective opinion, and they're not caught up in the emotion, because it's just like it goes to a player, it's the parents even more so. A lot of times they're vested more into the players and the players themselves. A lot of times they make decisions based off of not what their players want, but what they want. And that's why, you know, to me, it's a player's decision, it's not a parent's decision. At the end, the parents write the check. The parents get you to and from. So, and you always have to obey your parents at the end of the day, because they raised you, but you need to learn how to make decisions on your own. And to me, that's a process, 1, 2, 3 things that will always give you an answer. Will it be the right answer at the time? I can't say that. I'm not the person doing that. You can only look back on it at the end of the day and say, was that the right decision? But at least you approach that decision with some type of process. It wasn't purely, I hate this, I'm done, I'm out of here because you didn't make a team, or you didn't do this, or that didn't happen to you, that kind of thing. You should love the sport, whether you're playing on the bottom team or the top team.
In deciding if to continue a sport or not, athletes should consider their personalities and talents. Some sports are more individual and others are more team-oriented.
In swimming, it's very straightforward if who's better than who. Like, it's not subjective or anything. Like, if you have a faster time that the clock says, you're faster. But soccer, some people think some people are better, and it's kind of iffy, you know, like it's hard to say who's better and why, because in swimming you have a straight like time that the clock says, like you can't challenge the clock. But in soccer you do have people who say, oh, I think she's better than so and so and blah blah blah. I mean, it's just, team sports are harder because, I mean, you have to compete with your team, but you also have to play together. But in an individual sport, it's all on you. If you make a mistake, it only affects you and you have to change it. But in a team sport, I mean, you can all work together to change it.
Being a pitcher, it's very individualized. Lots of, at that time I was just a pitcher, so lots of extra lessons, lots of extra time, tons of hours on the field by yourself, versus when you're with the team. So when you go out there, you have your own dynamic job to do, and you've got to be on. So that's your individual part, but then you also have to think about, when you're doing it, like what's going to be best for the team. So how are you contributing to the team? So I think what's interesting in softball, and really any team sport, is that while you work as a team, you still have to individually perfect your game. So when people say, oh, well, I don't feel like going to work out, or oh, I'm tired, or oh, I'm this, or I'm that, or they start throwing excuses and they're not holding up their part, then actually they're bringing down their whole team. So they think they're being selfish and they think it's just about them, which, yes, their individual off-season or, you know, performance is about them, but on a whole, if you're not giving your all, then it brings the whole team down.
I would tell someone who's interested in softball that you really have to commit. There's not a lot of time to play a bunch of other sports, and you need to like try a bunch of different sports just to see if you really like it.
Finding the right sport for you may take time. Some people try several sports before finding the right fit. Each person is unique.
My dad just told me to be like a unique player and not try to be like anybody else.
Be yourself, follow your dreams, be a champion.
There's a quote, Anson Dorrance, he was the national team coach for a long time, and he was the coach at UNC Tar Heels. And he said, you know, the definition of a champion is what she's doing when no one else is around and no one else is watching. It's that girl that's leaned over, drenched in sweat, all by herself.
Every girl should consider trying a sport. You have an opportunity to make friends, learn life lessons, possibly gain benefits like increasing your confidence and self-esteem. You have more opportunities today than ever before. Take advantage of what sports can offer you. You don't know until you try.